The NBA is back in swing after last weekend's All-Star festivities, and one of the hardest working on-air talents covering the association is from the New York, New Jersey metro area. He is the host of NBA CrunchTime and a sideline reporter for TNT. From Mahwah, New Jersey, the one and only Jared Greenberg joins me now. Jared, what's up, man? How you doing?
Dexter, what's happening? Thanks for having me on.
Always glad to talk to you. Glad to see you. It's been a while, so good to see you here, even though virtually. And Jared, you had a great feature story about your career on NewYorkPost.com about how you got to where you are now. As a local guy, what did that feature mean to you, and what has the sports broadcasting journey been like for Jared Greenberg?
It was so cool. Just in talking with you guys too, SNY and the New York Post, two things I grew up on, growing up in New Jersey and living in New York. So it's just such a humbling opportunity. And for me, the biggest part of it is trying to get the word out about this show, NBA CrunchTime, that I host on the NBA app. It's the only whip around show in all of basketball. And I think we really serve an audience that's craving the opportunity to watch as much basketball at one time as possible, bouncing around from game to game to game. And so for me, it's just been really cool to see what has been my passion project get recognized by one of the biggest media outlets in the country.
No, it was good. It was good to not just see the passion for that, also just, hear your story about how you got to where you are. And Jared, you mentioned NBA CrunchTime because everybody who knows this about me, I'm an NBA junkie, right? So I enjoy watching you host the show. But when I watch you host the show, I'm like, there's a lot going on here. How crazy is it doing a show where there could be as many as 14 games a night, and how much fun are you having hosting CrunchTime right now?
Well, for somebody who has ADD, undiagnosed, it's perfect for me, right? Because, we're not spending too much time on one thing. And like the last show we did the other night, there was 12 games. So I have to prepare for 24 teams and, thousands of scenarios of what could happen every night. And for me, I just love it. And anybody who knows me knows that I take the most pride in my preparation. So this show squeezes every ounce of that out of me, sitting right here at this desk all day long, trying to figure out storylines, being able to identify players, learning different rotations that teams are running, who's in the starting lineup, who's coming off the bench, who's injured, who's coming off of an injury, just trying to figure out all of that. And I absolutely love it. And for me, like I said to Ryan in the story on NewYorkPost.com, like, if I wasn't hosting the show, I'd be sitting on my couch watching League Pass. So it's providing, and what I love most about it is the ability to hit so many different types of viewers in one show, right? Like you're a basketball junkie, and you're just you can want to consume as much of it as you can. But then there's people who are gambling on the sport, and we do that. But I don't feel like we really disrespect people who don't care about gambling. And then we're going to show you the biggest moments. We're going to show you the biggest stars, whether they're doing good, bad, or indifferent. No matter what's happening, we're going to give you the best opportunity to have a feel for what's going on that night in the NBA.
What, just a follow-up on that, what's some of the feedback you've been getting on the show? Like, I like it, and I think it serves the purpose of what was needed around the NBA, but what are you hearing from fans about it around the show in terms of you hosting it and just doing the show right now?
Well, the number one thing people says is we wanted more often, right? Because we typically do it once or twice a week, and people are like, we want you to do it every night of the week. And I got a 7-month-old baby at home, so like this kid needs to see me once in a while. He needs to know that I'm his father. But no, I tell you, with how negative social media could be, and I say this and I knock on wood while I say it. It's been remarkable the amount of positive feedback and almost no negative feedback, right? The negative feedback we got on this show is that people don't think there's enough of it, right? The problem with the NBA compared to like the NFL and their version of the show is that every Sunday there's, a handful of X amount of games at 1 p.m. Eastern and then 4 p.m. Eastern, and it fits the show perfectly for us. We've got to find the right nights where not only is there enough games on, but enough games on simultaneously to make the show have that whip around feel and not just make it feel like you're watching one game and getting stuck and being bored with that. We want to keep up the speed of this show. So that's, to me, it's been awesome getting the feedback from people. And, fans, players watch, coaches watch, the referees. I just did a podcast yesterday with some of the NBA referees, and they love it because people don't recognize how much they have to watch basketball, to study, to learn, and they love it because they can catch snippets of every single game going on. So that's been a really cool experience for me.
Well, look, I think it's pretty good feedback if people say they want more. There's worse things that people can say, as we know, in this
Yeah, no
industry,
question.
Jared.
And I've heard all of them.
You've heard all of them, too, for sure.
Yeah.
Let's talk some hoops, because I know you still keep your eye on what goes on with the local teams here in the New York metro area. How good do you think the Knicks can be if they're healthy?
Yeah, I'm really uncertain about the Knicks. I'm really uncertain about the rest of the East outside of Boston. I feel really confident that they're going to be one of the two teams in the Eastern Conference Finals, and I think ultimately advance beyond that. But who that second team is, I think there's a lot of parity right now, 2 through 6-ish, with Milwaukee, with Cleveland. Obviously, throw the Knicks in there. Depends on what happens with Joel Embiid. If he's able to come back with Philadelphia, they're obviously been struggling without him in the lineup. But I just feel like there's a lot of question marks about the Knicks. Like, once Julius Randle gets back, if Mitchell Robinson come back, that's a huge boost for them, because the amount of depth they would have at that center position is just ridiculous. They went from being incredibly thin at that spot once Mitchell Robinson went down to now Hartenstein has been playing so well. Obviously, he's been dealing with his own set of injuries, but if they can get Mitchell Robinson, Hartenstein, and then what Precious Achiuwa has given him, and even Jericho Sims has given him some good minutes, they could be, in terms of that position, one of the deepest teams in the NBA. But Randall's got to prove something once he comes back. Got to prove some things in the playoffs. And Jalen Brunson, like, I'm starting to think, do we need to start including Jalen Brunson in the MVP conversation? I don't know if he's at the top of that list, but just the way he's played this year, and obviously he's got a lot to prove in the playoffs. He had put up some great numbers last year, but this is a team that I think internally feels like what they did leading up to the trade deadline, they should be in the mix for that number 2 spot and have it give themselves a fighter's chance to advance out of the East.
Yeah, they definitely have a chance to be in the mix for that. You mentioned the Celtics, and as of the time of us recording this, the Celtics, they've got the best record in the league. They've won 7 straight games. Are you a believer in Boston, or is this a situation for you where you need to see them prove it in the playoffs coming up?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for them, it's championship or bust. There's no question about that. And I think Jason Tatum he said it the other day, and I think he's right that people are still holding it against him that he had a bad NBA Finals 2 years ago. But I think sometimes people misconstrue those conversations about superstar players. We in the media and we as fans have those conversations because we have high expectations for guys. We're not bashing Jason Tatum because we don't like him or we don't think he's a good player. We just want to see him perform at the highest level on the biggest stages. And I think Jason Tatum, since he's come into this league, has helped the Celtics get to a number of Eastern Conference Finals. We want to see them knock down that door because they're a really fun team. And I think Tatum absolutely is in the MVP conversation, just like, maybe Jalen Brunson's just on the outside of that, but Tatum's among the top 5 or 6 candidates. What Drew Holiday's brought to this team has been unbelievable. Jaylen Brown's having a sensational year, and then what they've gotten out of Kristaps Porzingis. Now the question mark, as Knicks fans know, if can he be healthy in big games? Right? He's got a big history of not being available when it matters most because of injuries, to no fault of his own. But that's part of what makes you a great player, is being available to play in those big games. So I absolutely believe in the Celtics. I absolutely think that they are in a class by themselves in the NBA this year in the regular season. But as we've seen, playoffs are a different beast. And once the lights get brighter, can all these guys continue to perform at that high level?
Yeah, and that is going to be a question around that team. Now, I want to take it out west for a second, because the Thunder and the Timberwolves, they're tied atop the Western Conference right now. Do you believe either of those teams can hoist the Larry O'Brien Trophy at the end of the season?
I don't. But I also didn't think either one of these teams would be this good this late into the season. It's been really fun to watch these teams. And for those fans, those casual NBA fans who complain that there isn't enough defense being played, watch these two teams. Watch the effort that these two teams give on the defensive end, night in, night out. But I just think it comes down to, when you look at the history of the NBA, for the most part, with very little exception, particularly when talking about young teams, they need to suffer setbacks. They need to taste defeat before they finally climb the ladder of success and win an NBA championship. And I think these teams are just so young and so inexperienced that once the playoffs come around, it's a different style of basketball. Other teams start playing at a high level on the defensive end as well. But man, oh man, like I would not be disappointed as a basketball fan if it was OKC and Minnesota in the Western Conference Finals. But I think that there's some more veteran-laden teams that have experience in those big situations that are more prepared for a long run in the NBA playoffs this year. But I say that to say this. I will guarantee you, I would run to Vegas right now if I could and put money on futures that Minnesota and Oklahoma City are going to be here atop the Western Conference for a long time to come. And in the next 5 years, one, if not both of these teams are going to be in the NBA Finals.
Oh, that's good. Minnesota fans, Oklahoma City Thunder fans should feel confident about that. I want to ask you about another Western Conference team, the Mavericks. They've won 7 straight games as well right now. Are you buying Dallas as a team who can do some damage out west in the playoffs, or is it kind of wait and see?
Yeah, I mean, and I'm going to throw a bone to Net fans here, right? Like, aren't you just waiting for the time that Kyrie is going to be out for a while? Even though,
you can't trust him to show up to work sometimes, Jared. You don't know.
Exactly right. And just when things are rolling the right way, they're getting a whole bunch of momentum. I think it's fair to say, to wonder, is something weird going to happen with Kyrie here? But I actually just spoke to somebody that's very close to the Mavericks organization, and they told me how pleasantly surprised they've been with Kyrie. He has been nothing but a pleasure on the court, off the court. So kudos to him, man, for hopefully trying to change that label that got stuck on him in New York, a lot to his own fault, right? Like, he created those issues. But I will tell you, I wasn't sure about them, and I didn't love what they did at the trade deadline. And then I've been watching what they're doing at the trade deadline, and it amazes me because I loved this guy Daniel Gafford in Washington, and I just didn't know how much of a fit it would be. But man, he has been a double machine. He has been awesome for them. And quite frankly, talk about MVP conversations. Like, if you're not watching what Luka Doncic is doing on a nightly basis, this dude is just able to do whatever he wants on the court. He is remarkable. And he has just been so fun to watch this year. And it's been good to see. And listen, he's missed some time. Kyrie's missed some time, but not as much time missed as we've seen from these two guys in past years. If they stay healthy and on the court together, I don't know, even like talking about like those OKC and Minnesota teams that are so good defensively, I don't even know how they can wrap their mind over a 7-game series to try and slow those two guards down.
Yeah, it will be a tough challenge. We can definitely say that. It will be a tough challenge to slow down Luke and Kyrie. A couple more things here, Jared. The Bucks, I want to talk about them. They had a nice win following the break over Minnesota. Do you think Doc Rivers is going to right the ship and improve their perimeter defense in time for the playoffs? Because that is clearly their weakness right now. Do you think that's something that'll get better with Doc Rivers at the helm?
Can I throw you a curveball?
Sure.
I understand the defensive questions, and you're right. It is their biggest issue right now. I see a bigger issue for Milwaukee in the playoffs with their offense. I just don't think Giannis and Damian Lillard have figured out how to play together yet, and they don't understand what each does well yet. And I don't know whether it's them being selfless too much or if they're being selfish. There's just too many times where Lillard has the ball and Giannis is just standing around. There's too much where you're not putting, to get a little bit technical, you're not like I'm an X's and O's expert or anything. I leave that to the tall guys I work with. But there's not enough action being put on the court where you're getting Dame and Giannis involved together. Now, there's been more since Doc Rivers has come along here. But, man, I tell you, when these two guys came together over the summer, when they traded Lillard to Milwaukee, the first thing I said was, wow. Like, who cares about the lack of defense that they're not going to be able to play? They are going to be impossible to guard because we've never seen a pick and roll like that with two guys that are as deadly at different things as Lillard and Giannis, right? Like, Giannis is a freight train coming down the tracks. Lillard's the best, deep shooter we have in the game, and the way that could stretch the floor would be a nightmare. I just can't believe it. Listen, you mentioned that win against Minnesota. I think maybe I'm going to change my tune here in the next few days or a few weeks if what they did last night. continues on. But so far, what I've seen, like the defense to me, it's I don't think it's ever going to be great because they just don't have the personnel, which is also a little bit of a conundrum for me because like wasn't Giannis always considered one of the best defenders in the league? Wasn't Chris Middleton considered one of the best perimeter defenders in the league? Wasn't Brook Lopez in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation a couple of years ago? Isn't Jay Crowder known for his defense? Like, I get that Damian Lillard is not Drew Holiday on that end of the floor. I get that Malik Beasley is not Drew Holiday on that end of the floor. But don't they have 3 or 4 guys that are supposed to be some of the best guys at their position defending? And their defense has still been that bad. So that's kind of bothered me. But I have more questions about why Lillard and Giannis have not clicked quicker on the offensive end.
No, that I think is fair, and I think it also is fair to look at them play. And you also felt like they weren't doing enough pick and roll action early in the season, which kind of shocked me. I just didn't understand it. I'm not a coach. Like you said, we leave that to some of the tall guys you work with. Right. But that was a little bit shocking. Last thing for me, Jared, when you look at this NBA landscape right now, simple question. Who do you like to win the NBA championship? You said Boston is championship or bust for them. Are you rolling with Denver? Is it somebody else? Who do you like to win the NBA championship this year?
Yeah, I still like Denver, even though they had a weird period heading into the All-Star break, then right after the All-Star break, or I'm sorry, they fixed it the other night. But I like Denver a lot. The team that is most intriguing to me right now is the Clippers. You know, based on their history, based on all of the injuries they've had, and speaking of guys not showing up to work, they're the case study of load management issues in this league. Like, could we, you know, are they going to be available in the playoffs? I think is a massive question. I just love the way they've been playing, and they are so deep. They are so well-rounded. They're so balanced on both sides of the ball. And we've seen glimpses of Kawhi this year be better than he was the year they won the NBA Finals. He won the championship in Toronto. I just think that they are, to me, the most fun series that we could have would be a healthy Boston against a healthy Clipper team. Boston, LA, just not the Lakers. And I think that's going to be my prediction. And I think this is Boston's year to win it all.
Going with Boston to win it all. I do think Celtics versus Clippers would be pretty fun, although it's going to make Laker fans upset because Boston.
Well, that's a good thing, right? Isn't it?
That is. Boston fans will be chanting "Beat LA," but not for the Lakers. It'll just be for the Clippers. And
right, exactly.
Clippers fans might not know what to do with themselves in that situation. That is Jared Greenberg. Check him out, hosting NBA CrunchTime on the NBA app. Fantastic for you guys who love basketball. Also, check out his work on the sidelines with TNT. Jared, good to connect with you. Love what you're doing. Love the journey as a fellow local guy. Keep up the great work, my friend. We'll talk again soon.
Dexter, it's been an absolute treat talking with you. I appreciate it. I love everything you've been doing, and love chatting on SNY and New York Post.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you.